Good, good. Have a good day. Yeah, good days. Are you live? Nope, just starting now. Yeah, we're live. Oh, I forgot to. All right, guys, should we kick things off? Welcome. This is a very special edition of a meetup that I do in Bali every week called The Filter. What is The Filter? Well, it's basically it started off as just a way to get together and filter all the news, all the crazy happenings in the crypto world. It got to be difficult to keep on top of everything. So we decided to get together every week. And that began round about the middle of 2014. So in 2014, we started getting together once a week to try and figure out what's going on with, well, at that point, it was pretty much just Bitcoin. But it has gotten very, very complicated since then. In Bali, we get together every week. And
only once?
Yeah, only once a week.
Well,
It's fantastic what you guys have done here, and I'm really happy that you've asked me to come and share with you what we're doing in Bali, and maybe we can exchange a little bit of information about what you guys have going on here in Chiang Mai. I know you guys get together more than once a week. I know you have like a trader meeting and a technical meeting, and when you get together at least once a week, you do something for new people. These are all like really cool ideas that, well, we're not really doing that kind of thing in Bali yet, but maybe we'll be inspired to do it. So what are we going to do tonight? I am going to, we're going to talk a little bit about price, because I looked through the headlines and all of Reddit is all about price. I usually, well, we used to talk about price a lot and then we didn't, but these days that's kind of what the news is all about. So we'll talk a little bit about price. In fact, I'm going to show you a way to think about price that maybe you haven't thought about. So that's the first thing. Then I'm going to share with you the details of a social experiment we did in Bali. So we tried to create a Bitcoin economy in Bali. Wow, right? We tried to create a geographical place where you could do anything with Bitcoin. You could go to a restaurant, you could go to a hotel, you could rent a scooter. You know, we had this vision of Bitcoin millionaires landing in Bali and, you know, choosing these businesses over other businesses because they accept Bitcoin, and also trying to see if Bitcoin could actually work as money in a geographic place. You know, besides the internet at large, we tried to get a concentration of businesses in Bali. And at a certain point in time, we had more businesses per capita than lots of really popular places around the world. San Francisco, Berlin, Singapore. On a per capita basis, we had more penetration. But that experiment is now over because of some legislation, some regulation. I'll tell you a little bit about that. But I've got some numbers to share. I haven't shared them anywhere before. But since we're comparing notes, I thought I'd put it together for you tonight. So we got that. Then we're going to talk about Bitcoin scalability. This is if we get this far. That's the topic of the day. You must have heard about this CryptoKitties problem. Blockchains have this problem. So we're going to talk about the Lightning Network, and then maybe a little bit about the CryptoKitties scandal that's happening. And I got a few other things up my sleeve if we have time. You guys ready? All right, let me share my screen with the folks at home. All right, I know you can't see this very well, but that right there is Mount Agung, Gunung Agung in Indonesian. It's the volcano. This looks a lot different right now. It's spewing molten ash and red stuff. Actually, it's calmed down a little bit since it first started threatening. So it's much safer to come to Bali. Like I said, we get together every week in Bali. You can do a visa run. If you do that, come see us every Tuesday night at a little co-working space called Ubud, you can come see us. So let's see what else we got here.
Right, well, Gary is preparing these things. Just first thing, thanks guys for coming with such a short notice. It happened that Gary is in Chiang Mai for a few days, and I thought it would be a good idea to organize a little special event to use his knowledge and to share the event with you guys here. And those who haven't been in Bali at these events to get a feeling of how does it, what these sessions are all about. Well, but who the hell is Gary? So Gary is actually, besides being a very interesting character, really involved in crypto, he's the guy who's responsible for me getting into crypto. So a year and a half ago, I was in Bali. I was just super bored and didn't really like the place. And a friend of mine told me to check out some working space, which I don't like working spaces. I said, okay, well, let me see what's that all about. And I saw Bitcoin ATM, and I saw also there some meetups every Tuesday. I tried it. I joined one of these meetups, and I was completely mind blown by what I've seen there. And then a few months after, when I came to Chiang Mai, I said, hey, how about we would create the same kind of community here in Chiang Mai as Gary created in Ubud. So also the name of our Facebook group, Bitcoins in Chiang Mai, is actually a tribute to Gary's Facebook group called Bitcoins in Bali. So I would say that pretty much, us being here doing this, it's, we need to thank this man for spreading a good thing about Bitcoin. So yeah, let's have a big welcome for Gary.
Thank you, Boba.
Go, go, go.
What a kind introduction. That's very very nice, Melvin. Thanks. All right, so we're kicking things off. We're going to talk a little bit about price just for half a second. The Bitcoin average right now, we're at $15,150 per Bitcoin. And are you guys able to see this, or is that quite difficult to see?
Yeah, a little hard to see.
Can you guys see this last part of the graph here?
Yes.
Well, everybody's looked at the Bitcoin price graph. Hello. Hi. Everybody's looked at a Bitcoin price graph, but I'm curious, do you look at the linear graph or do you look at a logarithmic graph?
Logarithmic.
How many people do not know what a logarithmic graph is? All right, so there's just a few hands. We've got a savvy group here. A logarithmic graph, it might sound intimidating, but all it is instead of each level of the graph being 1, 2, 3, 4, they are orders of magnitude larger. So it's 1, 10, 100, 1,000. So if something has exponential growth, then it looks like a straight line on a logarithmic graph. Right? If you look at it on a linear graph, then it looks like a hockey stick. Like you can't even tell what's going on. But if you change the scale, and if each layer of the scale is an order of magnitude higher, that's a logarithmic graph. And what you see here is a logarithmic graph of the price of Bitcoin. And it still looks a little bit like a hockey stick. This is very unusual for anything to grow this quickly. I mean, if you think about Bitcoin as being like a natural phenomenon, this is like supernatural behavior. Like markets don't normally do this. It's extraordinary what we're seeing. You can see that each one of these lines is an order of magnitude larger than the next, and it's going vertical. So yeah, extraordinary.
There's a very famous trader, Peter Brandt, on Twitter, and what he said a few days ago, he said like 43 years of trading, I've never seen anything in a market like this strong. This is really something very special happening.
Yes. Yeah, crazy, huh? All right. Here's the last week of Bitcoin. We're back on a linear graph. We can see there's been quite a big change. We were down around, 11,500. And this is the price action over the last week. So when we get together every Tuesday, we call this the Bitcoin time machine, because you can see like during the last week, well, what has happened? And especially during times like this, you can be like, oh, I remember when that happened, or I remember when that happened. And last night we were here, and this spike went crazy. And it's actually not as prominent on this graph, but it went up on was it Coinbase? Coinbase, it went up to 19,000? 19,000 per coin. And I also checked on the Indonesian exchange, which is, Bali's in Indonesia, so we trade and watch there, and it was up over 20. That was in the AM this morning. So crazy, crazy price action. Why would it be like 20? It was actually over 21 in Indonesia this morning when I woke up. Why would it be 21 in Indonesia, but only 15 or 17 on the global market? Yeah, I heard that too. I didn't verify it for myself, but it's crazy the arbitrage opportunities. Does anybody not know what arbitrage means? Arbitrage is buying in one place and then selling in another place for a higher price. So if there's something that's rare in one area and you can find a way to get it there, then that's arbitrage. So in this case, Bitcoin is around 15, 17,000 a piece everywhere else, but in Indonesia it's 19 or 20. So if you can find one in another place in the world and sell it in Indonesia, you can make $3,000 or $4,000 per Bitcoin. Now, why does that circumstance arise? Why does that happen?
Frictions of all kinds.
Friction, yeah. Who said that? Friction, yes. Friction in the fiat market, right? Because crypto can move very quickly. Cross-border, no friction, very little friction. But when you set up an arbitrage loop, or you're trying to take advantage of this circumstance that I described, you have to move fiat, right? You have to get fiat onto an exchange, buy a bunch of crypto, and move your crypto over to the other exchange, sell it, and then try and get your fiat back around.
Or use Tether.
Or use Tether, yes. This is why Tether was invented. So anyway, I think it's fascinating when you see these kinds of disparities. For me, it means this is how hard it is to get money in and out of Indonesia. About $4,000 or $5,000 hard. So, because you can imagine people see this circumstance, and they're like, hey, I think I'll do some arbitrage. And usually the sticky point is the moving the fiat. So, all right, all the other cryptos are stacking up. They seem to have recovered. But when Bitcoin was on its crazy bull run yesterday, all of the other altcoins were in the red. We had a lot of red. It's Christmas time. It was one green and an all red yesterday. But well, I think people were maybe pulling their coins out of the alts in order to try and ride the wave. This FOMO crazy momentum pulling the Bitcoin price higher. This is just speculation on my point. If anyone's got any other theories, I'd love to hear it. But what's interesting is when Bitcoin's on a bull run, you see all kinds of red in the alts. But also when Bitcoin takes a dump, you also see a lot of the alts take a dump. So sometimes all of these numbers are red. And it's fascinating to see the correlation between Bitcoin and all of these other dozens of coins that have arisen, and how do they relate to one another? Is there one big crypto tide where all boats rise, or are some of these acting independent of Bitcoin? I think it's fascinating to look at the price and the price movements and to identify coins that are asynchronous to Bitcoin when it comes to price. Because that means they're doing something different, right? As long as someone's not manipulating it, that's also possible. But if you can observe these things over time and you can see things move in terms of Bitcoin, or have an opposite relationship or an asynchronous relationship to Bitcoin, it can tell you that, hey, maybe that coin is doing something different. It's worth a look. I don't know about you guys, but there's so many coins, I don't even know where to focus. I don't even know what to do my research on. There's dozens and dozens. Everyone is always telling me, what do you think of this? What do you think of that? I know one of these top 100 is going to do 10x, 100x, 1000x. Bitcoin's on a run, but it's probably not going to do 100x, right, at this point. Something else will. So if you're looking at investing in other things or exploring other things besides Bitcoin, that's an interesting way to look at it. In fact, on my phone, can you guys see that? On my phone, I've got one of my screens. I've got the price of Bitcoin in the upper left, and then I've got all the other coins, but they're not priced in dollars. They're priced in Bitcoin. Right? So all these other prices, you can see Bitcoin's in the green, Bitcoin Cash is in the green, but all these others are in the red, which means even if they're also rising in dollar terms, maybe they're not rising in Bitcoin terms. This can help you decide where you want to have your funds, because you might be watching Monero. Monero recently went crazy, right? You guys familiar with Monero? It's another coin that's trying to be money. I think the money use case coins are the most interesting, because I studied economics, and I've been with Bitcoin for a long time. I understand the use cases and the problems with trying to replace money. So those are the ones I watch. Monero is one of the ones I watch, and it went from 200 to 300 during this whole bull run, but it stayed pretty consistent when priced in Bitcoin. So I don't know. It's something to think about. It's a paradigm shift. When we were first talking about creating our Bitcoin economy in Bali, we were like, wouldn't it be cool if people started thinking in Bitcoin prices instead of like other prices? And we were like, oh, that's like, really far away. That won't happen for a long time. And it probably won't for real world items, but it's starting to happen within crypto. Bitcoin is starting to become the thing that you compare to in order to price other things. Ethereum will probably get there sometime soon as well. In fact, Ethereum was really steady right around $300 for weeks and weeks and weeks. And so you could use that as the stable thing against which to measure whatever else you're watching. So that's just a little bit about price. A few other ways to think about price. And I'd love, does anyone have anything to add, or did I miss something, or is there a question about this stuff? Because I usually find price to be quite boring, but the headlines this week were all about Bitcoin price. So now's the time. If you got a question, like, shoot.
Biggest question is there any support? Where's the support now as it's dipping?
Where is the support? The downside support? Like, yeah. if the bubble pops, where are we gonna go?
Yeah, it's going down pretty radically right now.
Yeah. Well, are you guys familiar with the term HODL?
Yes.
HODL. Does anyone know the story behind the HODL?
Has it HODL for their life?
Well, we back in 2013, we had a crazy spike like this. I mean, we were on a roller coaster ride. We thought we had arrived. We thought the moon was right there for us to land on. We didn't know that the bubble was going to pop. However, we went over this top, $1,200, Bitcoin $1,200. It rounded the corner, and then it started falling precipitously falling. And everybody's on Reddit and posting on Reddit and on their chats. And one guy was so excited, he was like, "Don't sell, HODL." He misspelled the word hold, as in like, and he like published that to Reddit, and all these exclamation points, and our new Bitcoin vocabulary word came into existence, and now there's like HODL T-shirts and.
It was a really funny message that they wrote me on misspelling and wrong grammar, and that's something that you should Google and read, because it's just really funny to read. It's like 500 words. And it's originated this way.
Yes, we had something funny in the midst of all our otherwise crying when we thought Bitcoin was dead, and then there were lots of articles after that. Bitcoin is dead. You've probably maybe seen there's a Bitcoin obituary page that Bitcoin has died like several dozen times already. But your question was, where's the bottom? And we don't really know when. We don't really know how far. In the past, Bitcoin has fallen 90%. From its high. When we started having this bull run, I thought we were going to peak around $4,800, because that was 4x, around 4x the last high, and that was based on some calculations I did. That was magnitude-wise where I thought we might round the corner. Of course, I was totally wrong. I'm not a savvy or a market trader, but I've learned a lot in passion, and I've also learned that anything can happen, and I'm like not really a great prognosticator when it comes to price. But I do know that we can correct 90%. So.
Economically, yeah. If it was down to 10% before, you expect to be more support higher than that now with a big extra volume in the market. Yeah. There's more money.
There's more volume. There's more exchanges. There's more global interest. Everybody's talking about how this time it's different.
Yep.
But markets do this based on human psychology,
yeah, right.
And they do it orders of magnitude more because there's orders of magnitude more people paying attention. But they also, that herd mentality can be just as potent going back down.
Right.
But I think, if Bitcoin is really being considered a store of value, you should see it stay north of the last all-time high. So it could go back down to $1,200 and then rebound up towards maybe where my prediction was, 4,800. Like, hey, that'd be cool. I could be right and have some more money than I had before. But I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen.
If you want to join that Telegram chat, I just posted the link on the original message, which I'm going to read. It's very funny. There's a QR code downstairs. It says join us on Telegram. Scan that and you can find our group chat.
Cool. There was another question on price.
Do you think like the instability in the price is a stepping stone towards it being accepted as a currency because people can't exactly? Like I was reading that Steam, the game company, stopped accepting it in the last couple of days for that exact reason. So what I read and was listening to Charlie Lee talk about it, the guy behind Litecoin was saying that he thinks that it would be more like a store of value for the top two currencies like Bitcoin and Ethereum, whereas Litecoin might be more towards the everyday sort of thing. Did you agree with that?
Yeah, well, I think you're thinking about it in the right way, and the short answer is I don't know. I mean, I'm going to tell you about an experiment we did in Bali where we tried to get it to be a medium of exchange, and it worked in some ways and didn't work in other ways. Yes, Steam just announced that they're taking Bitcoin off the table for payments, and also Wikipedia also stopped accepting Bitcoin payments because they were having poor conversion rates because people were like, oh, what's Bitcoin? I think I'll go do some research instead of finishing my transaction. So it's a mixed bag when it comes to these things as payment. But ultimately, I think we'll get it. I think money, according to Aristotle, is a medium of exchange, a unit of account, and a store of value. And I think in the crypto world, we need to prioritize those things. Bitcoin Core is kind of prioritizing the store of value aspect of money. I think Bitcoin Cash wants to become more of a medium of exchange first, and it remains to be seen what the real answer is. I'm glad we have an evolutionary environment at our hands to see what happens. So
I'd say one of the reasons that some merchants are quitting using Bitcoin is due to the people actually not using it as a medium of exchange because of the currently high fees. So as you guys know, there's a big of scalability problem happening right now, which pushes the transfer fees higher. But also, if you're following the news, and maybe Gary's going to talk about that, so Lightning Network has been implemented on Bitcoin a few days ago, and that should help us achieve exponential scalability. So while increasing block size, it's kind of linear increase in scalability. Off-chain transaction can help you really scale exponentially.
yeah, we're going to talk about Lightning. Yeah. So anything more about price? Ready to move on?
Scalability issue. I read the other day that each block Bitcoin transaction takes 26 kilowatt hours of energy. That's equivalent to like 2 liters of petrol. It's very wasteful, and it doesn't seem like we can do small transactions. If it takes that much energy to do one transaction, the price is always going to be high. Is that somehow, is the price of doing the work to come down somehow, or will Bitcoin just be the large transactions, large exchanges of
So the question you're asking should be asked, like, is the energy that being used for these transactions, is that being taken away from something else? Is it being taken away from something else that can be used? So with most of these large miners in China and other places, they set up their operation for the energy. So if there's a creating utility, probably out of energy that is cheaper or would cost less. And so you can also make the same argument for, say, driving cars or something that waste so much energy, heat and exhaust and fumes and gasoline and pulling it on the ground. But in the end is the value that you're getting out of burning that gasoline or creating those transactions. Is it worth more than so I don't know the answer to that, but I think that's where.
And also that's where also off-chain transactions on Lightning Network comes in. Because they're going to be processed differently. So of course we all know that it's currently quite inefficient how this network works. I think it works. So it does work, it is expensive, and of course it's the first iteration. So as we move forward, everybody's aware of that, and people are working on solving that. So if you want to achieve really big scalability, speak about like pizza-sized scalability, yes, really change something on the technology level, and anything will come.
Is Ethereum have a technology where they delay the transaction time in order to pressure around the amount of energy cost and the time and the fees? So you can say, I'm fine with a slower transaction speed, but I'll pay.
The same as Bitcoin, you can choose your transaction fee, but then of course, since the network is really clogged, it means you don't know when your transaction will be within a block. And I mean, there are different ways of respecting that through proof of stake in the future. So moving away from proof of work algorithm of stake, which is things that we discuss on our Monday advanced meetup. So if you guys wanna talk nerdy things about technology, join us on Monday 7 p.m. every Monday at 4 o'clock. Yes. Yeah, next Monday is yes.
All right, guys, I'm going to press on to the next topic, if you don't mind. Sorry, I'm a little turned around here. Okay, so I'm here visiting you guys from Bali. We've been in Bali for the last 3-4 years. It'll be 4 years in February when I first arrived in Bali. And we're doing a social experiment there, at least we were, trying to get Bitcoin to work as money in a geographical place, right? It's a big tourist destination, and we figured, all these Bitcoin millionaires were going to show up with their Bitcoin millions, and they need to rent a villa, or they need to rent a scooter, or they want to go out to dinner or stay in a hotel. And, I personally was interested in the economics experiment of it all. And through our meetups, we were able to kind of rally the troops and get some interesting things to happen. I'm going to share some of that with you. And I'd like your input as another community doing something similar in another place. It's not exactly the same thing, but I'm hoping to share the information with you, and then get, maybe you can, maybe you'll have some ideas about what we did wrong, what we did right, and what we might be doing going forward. So anyway, this is the bitcoinsinbali.org website, and we use this, it's basically just to a landing page for people to find out what we got going on in the community. And we've got some figures here. We have 66 merchants in Bali that we ended up signing up. They were doing roughly about 13 transactions per week. And that last number, 187, are the number of people that showed up to take Bitcoin 101 classes over that time. So we're trying to keep metrics on the growth of the economy and the growth of the population of people. And essentially what we were trying to do is find merchants that we could get involved in the experiment, and then also find patrons, people to patronize these businesses and spend their Bitcoin, and get the whole wheels of economic activity happening, right? So we made a little video I want to share with you here. Hopefully we'll be able to hear this. Hello. I'm gonna do a little manual action.
Digital to analog, back to digital.
Anyway,
Go up
it's just
to,
music.
up there.
I'm just gonna.
To your sound. Click on that.
It's okay. It's only like 30 seconds.
Oh, okay.
So these are all places that accept Bitcoin as payment, or used to. I'll get to that in a minute. So anyway, there's a cool soundtrack, a bunch of really fast cuts between all the places you could buy and use Bitcoin. And it was meant to inspire. I hate autoplay. I thought I turned that off. Anyway, we used that as like a little, that was on the front of the website, and we used that as a way to try and get people to join what we were doing. And we got quite a lot of people interested, and we had a really good thing going, I would say.
What app were you using to exchange Bitcoin through the phone video?
I'll show you in just a moment. We created an open source project, which I'd love to. I'll share the details about it in just a moment here. Sorry guys, I can't seem to find my cursor. Come on here.
That's escape.
You want to exit once?
Gotta get focused first though. There we go. All right. Just a moment. All right. All right. So here's the open source project. It's at consensusreality.io/RSVP. RSVP stands for Real Simple Bitcoin Payments. This is something that the community put together.
Wow.
It was really exciting when it happened. I actually used some of my own savings to fund some of the initial development. But the best development that ended up happening in this project came totally for free. Like the people that came that were really excited about doing something with the community, they created the lion's share of what we've got here, and I'll show you. It's very simple. This is the interface, right? You got payment request. This says IDR. You just everything in our merchants was priced in IDR, so you just put the amount of IDR in the box, push pay.
Did you get help from the broader open source community?
Yeah. People show up. People show up and do like bug fixes, and you don't even know who they are. It's like amazing what happened. So like we would do a real-time lookup of the price, show a QR code with the price and the address of the merchant built in, and then we're also watching the blockchain and acknowledging a payment when it arrives. So that would be right on on the manager's phone, or sometimes they had tablets, or they'd have a little computer, but it's very simple, and I think that was the key. No logins, no anything. They just had a URL to go to, and yeah. So through that, we created. Well, I've got data to share. I've got 5 restaurants that we signed up to do this kind of thing. Now, when we first got started, we took all comers, right? There was a jewelry shop, and there was a big fancy hotel, and what we found was that restaurants were the best thing. because you could get people to go to restaurants every day, and you could train a restaurant staff well enough and get enough people coming on a regular basis where there was a critical mass of them remembering how to do it, and then people patronizing those businesses. So we would sign up a jewelry store, but no one would show up for 6 months. And then someone would wander in and go, I want to pay with Bitcoin, and the staff would be like, what are you talking about, Bitcoin? Oh yeah, I remember that guy 6 months ago. But with the restaurants, it was really good because we would have a meetup like this, and then we'd say, oh, there's a new restaurant that's accepting Bitcoin, and then when the restaurant owner's like, oh man, these 25 people are showing up in my business, I like that.
So just after my first meetup with Gary, when I had my first Bitcoin model in Bali, so we went to a restaurant like that. And before that, he showed us how to use Bitcoin ATM in the boat. So I did load some like install the wallet and bought some Bitcoins, and it was Airbits, so which I haven't been using a lot ever since that. So when I went to this restaurant at the meetup, I did pay with Bitcoin for those I had. And a few weeks ago, I just opened the Airbits again, and I've been using it for a while, and I saw that it says that I paid like apparently like a few hundreds of dollars, for one minute there.
Yes. Well, this is part of the knock against Bitcoin as a medium of exchange because of the volatility in the price. We've got volatility upwards, so we have this. I mean, it depends on how you look at it. You could think like, you know,
Just
why did I
go back now to say, okay, well.
But actually, if you plot Bitcoin volatility over time, it is going down, but it's not going down in a straight line. And right now, it's very volatile because things are going crazy. But I think before it can really work as a medium of exchange, the volatility will have to come down a little bit.
I think that would come with increasing market cap. So market cap of Bitcoin is still relatively small. It's around 300 billion.
Something like that.
Something like that. So once we reach trillions and things, it's going to slow down. So it's going to be way more stable.
What was the time frame when this happened?
This is over the course of 2 years. I think we got some of our first merchants in the fall of 2014. And what you're looking at here is the graph of the cumulative spend in fiat money over the course of those 2 years. So this is the cumulative spend. 1,745 transactions. These are 5 restaurants. And the total take is about 354 million rupiah. So about $26,000 is what was spent over the course of that time. That's pretty good, I think. It was really, you know, basically just a lot of people making a philosophical decision to use Bitcoin in this way. And there's a really cool end to the story, which I'll show you next. This looks like the same graph, right? Kind of, a little bit, except it's green. This blue area down here is that blue area that you saw before. And this is the value of what was spent now in Bitcoin.
Wow.
It is $913,089. So close to $1 million for 5 restaurants in a tiny place like Ubud. This is a windfall game for these. This is a place where yearly rent is like $5,000, right? This is a windfall gain. Not all of them kept all the crypto, and I've anonymized the data and I've assumed they kept all their crypto. Some of them did, and it's a really cool story because they made a philosophical choice at first to just get involved, and if they stuck with it, they're sitting on 80, 90, 100, $150,000, which is big money for a small-time restaurant in the middle of a small town like Ubud. They're opening up new restaurants. One guy is doing a whole brand new hotel. Another restaurant is going to create a farm where they can grow their own food. This is cool shit. Like this is the magic of it all and the really cool thing that's possible. Now the bummer kind of is that well, Can you guys see this?
I was going to ask.
Yeah, the party's over. Our little crypto experiment has come to an end.
We can go home now.
But I think it's really, I mean, obviously the authorities are taking notice, and this is all part of it. I think this is all part of our road to success. But this little, you know, we kind of, I see it as like a little retreat, you know, because I would hate to see any of these merchants get in trouble for having done this little experiment that, in all honesty, we really promoted. But you know, there's a good story, and I think it could work elsewhere, maybe here.
What was their reason for banning? What reason did they give?
They were very nebulous, but they already had a law in place that all products need to be priced in rupiah, which we were already doing. And then they said that transactions could only take place in IDR. That's the currency. That's the rupiah, IDR. And so, if you think about it, when you use your credit card, what are you paying with? You know, you swipe. You have a price in rupiah. You swipe your card, and then you go home and pay your credit card bill in what? In dollars or euros or your home currency, and they receive rupiah in their bank. That's the way the system usually works. That's perfectly okay in Indonesia, and that's the justification we use, because you show a price in IDR. You pay with Bitcoin, but we had a mechanism at their disposal. I don't know if they all did it or not, but there was a mechanism at their disposal where they could receive rupiah in their bank account on the next day using the Indonesian exchange.
Isn't Reddit banned in Indonesia as well?
Yes, it is. Yeah, they're very paternalistic, I would say, in Indonesia. Yeah, well, I mean, what do you guys think that something like this would work here? And especially those that are interested in the medium of exchange use case. Are there businesses here accepting Bitcoin? Do you guys patronize businesses using Bitcoin?
I think these guys want to accept Bitcoin, and also other venue. We also host events, food for thought. Again, the thing is, are people willing to pay Bitcoin right now? That's the thing. Yeah.
Well, I mean, I think it would be really nice to update the open source software with some diversity of coins to pay with. Maybe Litecoin, maybe Bitcoin Cash.
I would prefer to be paying Litecoin.
Yeah, well, if there's any developers in the house, and please come talk to me afterward. Maybe we can discuss it. Yeah?
Maybe Revolut just launched their virtual wallet in the Revolut app, and now you can pay with Litecoin, Bitcoin, Ethereum with your debit card. And you
Yes. That's a great idea. I'm not married to this software. I mean, it's probably implemented much better in professional operations. And the more interesting thing is the social aspect of it, because it's not enough for it to be technically possible. Like, a bunch of people have to be excited about this and making things happen for it to really actually work and actually be implemented. So, another question? No? Okay. So anyway, that's the end of a little story in Bali. But yeah, I'd love to see it happen in another place. And you guys have an amazing thing going on here. Obviously, a lot of interest, a lot of momentum. Maybe it could happen here as well. It's been a very positive thing that has happened in Bali. So
I think that's the thing we need. It's community for mass adoption. That really drives. So price increases are nice, but achieve mass adoption, really using cryptos immediately change and pushes it way forward.
One last graph, I forgot to mention this, but this is the USD IDR cross, and you can see that you know, the rupiah has lost, well, from bottom to top, about 20% of the value against the USD. So this is kind of a proxy for the tourist dollar that shows up in Bali. And if the little restaurant owner or the little scooter renter guy, if he doesn't change his prices by 20%, he's losing that money to the exchange rate. Obviously, if they were using Bitcoin and they had a deflationary currency at their disposal, they don't have this problem of losing 20%. They're gaining hundreds of percent. It's better in my opinion. And one thing that we proved is that even though it's a deflationary currency, people still spent it. You know, you can't eat a Bitcoin, it's fun to turn it into real world things, especially after if you've realized gains, then everything you buy comes at a discount. So anyway, that was just one last on that topic. Any questions on what we've done?
It's an awesome economic exercise. Like, it's something that economics it's so fluid, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's just kind of a dream situation.
Yeah. Well, we learned a lot. You know, I studied economics, and there's economic dogma that we need inflation in order to stimulate economic activity. And they hate deflation because they say it will ruin the economy. Everybody will stop spending. They'll begin hoarding, and the economy will grind to a halt. This is economic dogma. Like, if you go and study economics, they will tell you this. Like, nope, like that's not even a question that that's true. And you know, I still buy a computer every year, and they get faster and less expensive. And in this case, we saw people spending their Bitcoin even though they suspected. You know, we've got the pizza example, the $10 million pizza, Bitcoin pizza. People were still spending their Bitcoin in order to make something bigger happen. You know, make the whole experiment a success. So. All right. Oh, I didn't mention this in the intro, but I just wanted to bring this to your attention. Did everyone see what happened with Andreas Antonopoulos recently? Yeah, wasn't that cool? Like, after all the vitriol and all the fighting and like people talking about how the culture used to be cool, but now it's not, and that nobody's friendly, we get this. You know, it actually wasn't a lot of people took offense to this tweet by Roger Ver. Andreas is one of the most eloquent speakers on the topic of Bitcoin. But if he had invested $300 back in 2012, he'd be a millionaire today. And then you probably can't read this, but he says, I'm not a Bitcoin millionaire. I was working for free. Instead of investing for the first 2 years, I only recently got out of debt. So he wasn't a bag holder. He was trying to pay off his debt, and he was so passionate that he quit his job. But he doesn't have as much money as you think he does. And I can relate. Like, a lot of people just quit, and they started on their savings. Some people went all in on crypto at the height, and then we had that long bear market, and they had to liquidate in order to pay their rent and do things during that bear market, and they wiped out their entire bag. And so there's a lot of old-time Bitcoiners that don't have as much as you think. He was in that category, and well.
I assume he's a Bitcoin millionaire.
Yeah, you just assume, right? So he's doing all right now, which I'm going to get to. The community. So as soon as this tweet happened, and this little tweet exchange. I'm sorry. Question? Okay. So as soon as this tweet happened, basically the community rallied, not realizing that he had been in had these circumstances in his life. Everybody figured that he was benefiting from the rise in the value of Bitcoin, just like everybody else. And so, in short order, at least $700,000 showed up, right? And that's probably just the tip of the iceberg.
There were 2 transactions from the same address. One was, I don't know, for 40-something Bitcoin, and after that was, I think, also from 50-something. So it's more than over $1 million from the same address coming. 2 addresses.
So this guy got on a transatlantic flight. Just landed in Paris, layover, turned on my data, my inbox is flooded with support, my Twitter DMs are full, my Patreon is overflowing. And because of the magic of Bitcoin, we can actually look at his address. This is Andreas Antonopoulos. Total received 2,337,000.
Awesome.
Fucking cool.
Yeah.
Like, how cool is that? Like, you know, he was one of the first people that I started listening to, and I got so much value. I would give his videos to people in lieu of me telling them about things because he did it so eloquently. And I can tell you, he visited us in Bali at the end of June, and he came on his own dime. He paid for his own flight, his own hotel, and he gave a speech for absolutely free. So it is legit. This guy is out there doing what he's doing for the sake of sharing information with and expecting nothing in return. We raised some money to give him to donate to his cause, but it was not expected. It wasn't a tit for tat. It was a genuine donation on our part, and it was a genuine gift on his part. And I think he's the real deal. I think he's a very sincere person. And it's cool when good things happen to good people, right? Yeah. So, anyway. All right, next topic. Lightning Network. Doesn't that sound exciting? Lightning Network. You can nerd out on layer 2 scaling solutions. Don't you want to get into the weeds and like take a look at this? This is a cool topic because this is what the scaling thing is what's caused all the problems for Bitcoin and now for Ethereum. I think this is a blockchain related phenomenon. One can be a victim of one's own success. You know, it's like nobody goes to that restaurant anymore because it's too crowded phenomenon, right? So there's 2 camps now. You've got Bitcoin Cash that says let's raise the block size. That's how Bitcoin scaled originally. Let's go with what we know. But we got another camp that wants to do layer 2 solutions. Now, how many people have no idea what that means? Layer 2. What the heck is a layer 2 solution? Okay. Without getting into too many technical details, there's a concept in computer science called separation of concerns, meaning that you work on one thing at a time, and you have a very stable interface or language between layers, and that allows you to compartmentalize. So we have this already with the internet. You've probably heard of TCP/IP, right? TCP is one protocol, IP is another protocol, and they link together in a layered fashion so that the internet can have things like video conferencing and streaming music and streaming video. Like, they didn't have that in mind when they first started thinking about the internet, and they didn't think the internet protocols were going to scale. But because they took a layered approach and actually got very creative in many different ways, the internet does scale. And the people behind Bitcoin Core are advocating a similar approach to the scalability problems with blockchain. And that is, you've got Bitcoin as a base layer, and then there's another layer that handles a bulk of the transactions. So in the case of Lightning Network, you can create one Bitcoin transaction that establishes a Lightning Network, and then there's a bunch of little transactions that take place. And then when the transaction is complete, it generates just one Bitcoin transaction on the Bitcoin blockchain, but you've actually exchanged value for many thousands of people in the meantime.
Is it secure?
Well, it's not here yet. In fact, that's why I brought it up, because they've just now released release candidate 1.0, and let's see if we've got the. We've got the layering is a tried and true concept in computer science that works in other domains. Yeah. We have blockchains are a new beast. It's not just technology; it's people and technology. So we'll see if that actually works. But it's very encouraging that this 1.0 product has arrived, and there are 3 different implementations. Question or something to add?
Well, I was going to ask, is there an upper limit to how much you might be able to count scale? Or is it an order of magnitude, or is it hundreds, thousands, millions of transactions?
Well, the really bullish people are saying like billions of transactions. There's a lot of people that criticize that hyperbole. And the blockchain, the Bitcoin blockchain itself has a limit now. So you can imagine a time when that limit is exceeded, even though you've got many tens of thousands of Lightning nodes and networks open. And in that instance, either they'd have to find another way to scale or increase the block size at that time. But we are talking about physical space on real hard drives, and it does give you the ability to have perform many transactions and just generate one on the Bitcoin network. But we could run out of those onesies. So
require more storage. In the minings, I presume it's going through miners exchange.
Let me try maybe to give an example for people who are not clear about how Lightning works. And it's a really nice metaphor actually from Andreas Antonopoulos. There was one of his talks when he says, when he explains Lightning Network as not having to do every transaction between two parties, you don't have to pay every time. So it's like opening a tab in a bar. So when you open the first drink, open a tab, get a next drink, etc. And only when you leave the bar, you're gonna pay. So it's the same thing as Lightning Network. So you're gonna have all these transactions in between. You're gonna keep them somewhere off the blockchain, and then when you leave the bar, you're gonna settle them on the blockchain itself. Now the nice thing about it is that it actually can route transactions. So you can actually use not only between two participants, you can actually have multiple participants, and you can use other parts of Lightning Network to transact between me and somebody else, even though we don't have directly the Lightning Network. So it means really that it scales exponentially. And the next thing is, of course, so the way blockchains work now is that, of course, they record every single transaction all the time in any history. So the question is, as we grow, if we really want to make this big and to be used everywhere, we really need to save and store every little single transaction in the blockchain. Like if somebody sends like a few pennies, really that every single node has to contain all those transactions forever. So it's maybe trying to make it more optimal by adding this next layer of transactions.
Quite like the analogy that you used of the internet, and then moving towards what you were saying there as well. In that the internet didn't scale initially, and it had to be a finite number of IP addresses at various different points in time. And you know, HTTP protocol was just like that initially. It was like, here's the response, and we're done. Oh, you need another one. Here's the response, and we're done. And that scaled up into a newer version of HTTP protocol, which allows connections to stay open. Now, that again is a finite way of scaling, and there are newer solutions in place now. Google released one a couple of years ago. It's not necessarily across the board, but as those scaling problems pop up and they are required to move from in theory to practice, the community, historically speaking, with the internet and open source, etc., tends to try and get that solved. It's in their benefit, and generally it's in the benefit of people outside that community as well as disruptive technologies tend to have that effect.
Yes.
So I like the analogy.
Right. It's also an interesting analogy for this reason. We're still on IP version 4, but IP version 6 has already been released like years and years ago, but the majority of the internet is IP version 4. Why? Because it has the network effects. It's hardwired into the internet itself. It's on millions of routers all over the world, and it's just too hard to upgrade from version 4 to version 6. IP version 4 is good enough, and it's a good metaphor because maybe Bitcoin won't be the flashiest technology or the best, but it has network effects. And if this Lightning Network acts in a certain way, like the layered approach of the internet, maybe
it's exactly that. Between 4 and 6, there is translation points.
Ah.
Right? That's the way that description is. That there is translation points, and that is exactly what that there is, the analogy.
And we could have translation points for between different coins, presumably. One of the other things that these guys announced as part of this initiative is atomic swaps. Everybody understand what atomic swaps are? Okay, this is also a little nerdy, but also cool. It allows you to perform transactions across blockchains. So you've got the Litecoin blockchain, you've got the Bitcoin blockchain, and you walk into a merchant, and you're like, I want to spend Litecoin, but the merchant only wants Bitcoin. You can this isn't in place yet. This is all experimental, but someday maybe I can walk in, spend something, and on the other end it arrives as something else. And this concept, this Lightning Network, allows for these things called atomic swaps. Meaning I've got a Litecoin atom and I want 10 atoms of Bitcoin or vice versa, and we can route value over those various blockchains and cooperate. Pretty cool. The other cool thing about this technology, most people don't consider this cool usually, automated testing suites, but this is all open source technology, and it's a matter of public record how the interoperability tests are passing or failing, right? You're basically, these guys are working on stage, right? They're developing, but the whole world is looking at what they're doing. And so what they do is they publish the source code, then they publish the unit tests, the automated testing suites, and then you can see exactly how many of the tests passed or failed for the initiative. So you can make a decision. You can say, this is really happening. It's not like the old days, like Microsoft. We've got a new version of Windows. Hope it works. There you go, right? And you have no visibility into what it is. Security in this world of digital money has to be open source. You cannot have closed source software for this type of thing because it's money. You need to. Everybody needs to understand that, you know, under some circumstances, my money is not going to be routed to, you know, somebody in Thailand. We need to know that it's happening based on the rules that everyone can look at inside of the source code that we all share. Right. So this is although it's a boring unit test report, it's a cool thing because it happened. It shows that these things are happening under the sunlight. They're real, and you can bet that if there's anything wrong, somebody's going to point it out. So yeah, Lightning Network. We're almost out of time, guys, but I wanted to just talk for a moment. It's related to the subject we're just talking about. Blockchains are very slow, very expensive databases that have scalability problems when people begin to use them. What is an example of this happening right now? CryptoKitties. CryptoKitties. CryptoKitties broke the internet.
It shows there's value.
What's that?
It shows there's value.
It shows there's value. Like it's you know, Ethereum right now is a victim of its own success. And the CryptoKitties have taken over, and the majority of the economic activity for the moment is taking place supporting this CryptoKitties game. You know, you can buy one kitty, you can buy two kitties, you can mate them together. They have babies. The babies have value. You can sell them. They're exchanging, and there's no central authority. You know, everybody could disappear, and these cats could live on in perpetuity on the Ethereum network. Marking their territory and screwing up everyone's world for the foreseeable future. And it's really interesting because it's driving out other activity that people aren't as interested in, maybe, at the moment. Like anyone launching an ICO at the moment, you might be having some problems. You know, if you know, somebody else might be wanting to launch their game, and their game sucks because CryptoKitties is cool, right? Like, where's the barrier to entry? Also, because they're all sharing the same economic model, something that's not as profitable, presumably, might not get the same bandwidth with the world supercomputer that something else that is more economically viable. So I was kicking around this metaphor last night of, you know, you're in a gentrified area like New York City, like the rents go way high, and there's like all these cool nightclubs and, you know, fancy office buildings, but you got a shoe shine guy. Right? And he can't make enough money shining shoes to stay in that area, right? So he leaves, and then nobody has a shoe shine person. Like, there's nobody shining shoes. Like, where do you got to do to get your shoe shined around here? You have to go like out to Hoboken. Like, sorry, these are New York references that you don't get. But the point is, and the metaphor is, like, we've got Ethereum, and everybody's creating for their thing for this world computer. And if you're creating something that's not as economically profitable as something else, are you going to get your time? And how are they going to solve this problem? This is an extra problem to overall scalability, right? Bitcoin's only got a Bitcoin, and Bitcoin Cash, all these others only have an overall scalability problem. But Ethereum has a scalability sharing problem because of the economics, right? These CryptoKitties are keeping other people from doing other things right now. It's a problem to solve. I think they will solve it. The smartest people in technology are working in this space, so they will solve it. But I don't know. We're like explorers, and we're like in the jungle with our machete, like blazing new trails. We don't know like what kind of foreign creature is just going to rear its ugly head at any moment.
That drives progress. So same thing with the internet. spoke about. So once the internet became too slow for certain type of data, people had to force to find a solution. And I think things like this is also a very good moment to say, okay, well, okay, where this is working, but we need to change something to make it scale better. And as somebody said, it shows that there's usage for the project.
They are cute.
They're very cute. They have like some sort of genetic algorithm. When you combine them, you get something new. They have catch. Yeah, they have all kinds of great names. Like, what are the names? Some of the names. Does anybody know some of the names? Like,
You can scroll down the way.
I don't know. Anyway.
Yeah. We know you have everywhere.
Let's show the all the reasons why is getting smashed, right?
More important is, has anybody seen what the max value of a campaign sold is? Over 100.
So,
Yeah.
It's definitely money laundering.
Could be. Anyway, that's all the time we have for tonight. At least the formal portion of the program. I would like to invite you all to visit us in Bali. We get together every Tuesday night at 5 p.m. at a little co-working space. You can find the details at bitcoinsinbali.org. We've also got a Facebook group, facebook.com/bitcoinsinbali. If you are at all interested, you can follow me on Twitter. My name is Gary, and my handle is @DykstraNet. Thanks for coming tonight, guys. Let's get a beer.
Right, we're gonna have a bit of informal session now with Gary and everybody else. So we move downstairs, get some drinks. Good evening. Thanks very much.
Yeah.